how about now? And speaking of music, we probably should be putting something on in the background as well. Alright, how about now? Desktop audio and the microphone should both be enabled. Thank you for letting us know. Pokemon Flute is an interesting card here. Of course, we have already seen similar cards in the TCG proper. And with the ability to bring back a low HP basic, then use Sabrina, it could be a way to guarantee a KO. Pokemon Flute, of course, will also work with Pokemon like Lumineon. The key issue is that you'll need to find an opponent running a deck with basics at 50 or less hit points. Many decks currently are using 60 hit point basics, and I'm not sure it is going to be good enough. Now, this new Raichu is quite interesting, offering widespread benched damage. Unfortunately, despite the high damage potential here, I do believe the Thunderbolt 140 damage is going to be the preferred finisher for its ability to KO Pokemon like Mewtwo EX in one shot when paired with Giovanni. However, the art on this Raichu is my favorite so far. Venipede has nothing going on, nor does Liepard. Magikarp could be interesting if you pair it with a Pokemon like Kangaskhan, a low investment attacker who is going to be able to stoke some hits while you prepare for your Gyarados. Even though this Magikarp deals no damage, I would run it over the existing one, which just does 10 damage. Now, Behem. Is able to deal an astounding 70 damage for 1 energy. This is theoretically meant to counteract a deck like Pikachu, who is meant to put a full bench onto the battlefield. However, Behem itself only has 90 health. Had it been 110, I think this could have been a contender. Perhaps in a no EX format, it will see more use. Now, Dreadnought. 3 energy is simply a little bit too high. Consider Starmie, dealing more damage for fewer energy, or Articuno EX, who is also dealing 80 plus the bench damage, and you don't need to search for the evolution. We are 5 packs in, and we have yet to see any EX Pokemon. I'm hoping to find one soon. At least we have found a 3-diamond card. 120 damage is nice, but with 3 energy requirements, this can only really see play in a deck like Exeggutor that uses low energy attackers. And at that point, is there really nothing else you could be charging up? Perhaps a Celebi EX, for example. Geodude. Servine. Pidgeotto 50-3 is obviously, not going to cut it when we are dealing more damage for less on a ton of Pokemon. Alright, Elgium is another one of those 20 hit point Pokemon, or 20 damage Pokemon, and this new Electabuzz, I believe, is going to be worse by a fair margin than the existing one. Obviously, being able to hit the bench is nice, but unless you are playing against a Magikarp deck, the first Electabuzz is already dealing 40 with a chance to strike higher. Behem, I think, could have used a bit of a rebalancing like that as well. there are currently plenty of Pokemon like Rapidash who are just hitting 44-1, and that is their entire card. But those are obviously behind curve, and Rapidash is the only one who sees play because of Blaine. Let's see if we find any more new cards. We do have 2 Lumineon now. Slurpuff is definitely not good enough. And despite the new Execute having energy acceleration, it still does not have access to the ability to use Psychic on the turn it evolves. Alright, so this is clearly just a little bit better than Meowth, at the cost of not having an evolution. Is the new Pidgey even functionally different from the previous one? It looked quite similar to me. Now, Scolipede is how you do a Stage 2 Pokemon. 2 energy attacks are what you should be running. That way they are able to curve nicely into it. 130 damage is reasonable, and after Poison, that will be 140. Capable of taking out a wide variety of EX Pokemon. Even Mewtwo EX will fall, thanks to the power of the weakness. And our final pack. Unfortunately, no EXs from the entire 10-pack pull. So, we shall try one more. But we are going to wish to save some hourglasses for the next set as well. Keep in mind, this is a small set, and we have some time before the next one releases. So I do not feel rushed with just 12 packs opened. Over half the set is in our collection. We shall do one more set here. And if these 10 packs don't give us any EX Pokemon, we might try a new water deck. Alright, Salazzle is 40 for 1, with a little bit of upside. But its incompatibility with Blaine could be an issue. Shiinotic is a slightly stronger version of Frostmoth, but I don't think it'll see play. Though, as something that is able to use it for just 1 energy with a superior in play, perhaps some people will try it. Leaf counts as 2 copies of X-Speed, but it is still not enough to allow your bulky grass Pokemon to retreat for free. That is odd to me. Still, it might see play. There are times where you would like to retreat with a little bit of extra energy reduction. And this new Golem seems incredibly tanky. Guard Press is capable of taking down a Pikachu EX. And with Giovanni, it could even defeat the Zapdos, I believe. But I can't remember if they have 140 or not. Then, with 190 hit points of its own, anything short of a Charizard is unable to remove it. 4 energy is incredibly costly. But Brock can help once you've evolved it. Oh, that is a pretty good point. Pokemon that are going to need Leaf are often going to be evolved Pokemon, unless you are using it with a Kangaskhan. And if you are running evolutions, you are not going to have any space to include bonus supporters outside of the strategy, especially grass decks already requiring Erica to make their plays. Budding Expeditioner seems a little bit too niche for a Pokemon that already only has one retreat cost. It needs to be a Mew you open with. Then it needs to take attacks for you while you power something else up on the bench. And there it is, Celebi EX. Flip a coin for every energy attached to this Pokemon. These are some of my favorite decks to play. I am a little bit surprised Exeggutor did not get its iconic Big Explosion. Oh, and Division. I like this coughing. Anything to thin the deck is good with me. And this Rapidash would see some play if it had a different name. Should it have been, say, Blaine's Rapidash, or had a different name? I could see running 3 to 4 Rapidash in a Blaine deck. But unfortunately, it is not going to work the way it is now. Back to back. EX packs, Rampage and Whirlpool, unfortunately is not going to solve Gyarados' problems. 4 energy is a little bit too high, I think. Even with Misty, I really don't see it working out. I think ideally what they want you to do here is power up a Lumineon, then retreat into Gyarados and use Vaporeon to transfer the energy. But it is just a little bit too much. Nothing in that pack, but we are pretty satisfied with this opening. We now have one Celebi EX, and I believe we should be able to build something with the superior line. My only question is if we actually have enough copies of Snivy. For I do recall we already owned 2 superior before opening any packs here. Let's execute the code and put the rest of this pack into the collection. Then we shall claim our rewards. Back to the home page. Unfortunately, too many of the water Pokemon are suffering from a Misty-themed tax. But Pokemon that already exist, like Starmie, don't need Misty to be good. So players are pretty likely to simply choose those instead. Now, themed collections. Untouched Forest. Something I did notice is that many of these require owning multiple copies of the same card, which I think is interesting. I'm guessing this is a reference to Pikachu being found in the Viridian Forest. So, if it is untouched, it would be able to evolve into Raichu. Tranquil Lake, a Gyarados EX, and plenty of Pokemon to go alongside it. Scorching Wilderness, 3 Weezings, 3 Salandit, a Volcarona, but no Larvesta. Seems a little bit interesting to me. 5 Flying Pokemon. Now, the oddest part of this Pidgeotto is that it requires more energy than the Pidgeot, who deals 70 for just 2 energy. Wishing Sun and Moon had this ratio for new Pokemon. Are you referring to like the forest having 4 Shiinotic and 1 Pikachu? Oh, another thing that required the Pidgeotto. It seems the same cards are frequently inside of these requirements. They want me to pull 6 copies of Behem. That seems a little bit excessive here. We unfortunately have not found any Mew or Blue here. And 60 packs, I think we will be waiting for. Oh, a Celebi EX rental deck. That is many of the same cards I would be playing here. And of course, Gyarados EX is joining the pack as well. Now, we have already discussed many of these cards as we open the packs, but I would like to go over them with a bit of a finer tooth comb. Apologies if I am not responding to the chat for a little bit as I do this. Let's switch. Why is it like this? Oh, I see now. Alright, so let's review the cards from this new set. Starting off, we have Execute, whose Growth Spurt lets you put grass energy onto itself. However, this card runs into a pretty obvious problem. Exeggutor EX requires just 1 energy, so the acceleration does nothing, while the new Exeggutor requires 4. Even with a Growth Spurt, you are unable to evolve the next turn and declare an attack, as you will be 1 short. If you have a Superior in play, then you don't need the Growth Spurt, as you can attach the second energy on the next turn. Now, Celebi EX's Powerful Bloom is a potential meta contender. Scaling damage on basics tends to be a recipe for success, such as Xian Pao in the official card game. Celebi will have to struggle with coin flips, but with enough energy, the odds average themselves out. If you are a fan of Marowak EX, give Celebi a try. Pair it with the brand new Superior, and you will be swinging for huge damage. It's also worth noting that Celebi EX is a grass type, so that energy won't be going to waste as soon as you might think. With 130 hit points, and Erica puts it at functionally 180. Avoid getting 1-hit KO'd, and many Pokemon are going to struggle to hit you with a 2-hit KO. We are just on the cusp. We are just on the cusp of avoiding a 2-hit knockout from Pokemon like Pikachu. So pair it with a potion and you are good to go. Now, Shiinotic is a little bit of a power-crept version of Frostmoth from Genetic Apex. Additionally, you can, especially when paired with the Superior. However, Frostmoth, while potentially useful, has not seen a lot of success, so do not expect it to be that meta-defining. You will often want to put the extra 4 slots in your deck towards useful items and supporter cards. Now, Delmise is another one of those cards that is meant to go with Superior. If you are able to set up this Stage 2 Snake, Delmise will be hitting for 90 damage with just 2 energy, similar to Pikachu and Starmie. Unfortunately, Superior is slow, and Delmise does not quite stack up to a Pokemon like Starmie, who is able to use Misty to potentially be swinging for that damage much faster. Moving on to the fire types. The first one I want to point out is the Magmar. Discarding 2 energy is a little bit of a steep cost, but with the original Genetic Apex Rapidash, a Blaine deck might just find itself with an energy to spare. Magmar for 110 damage is pretty significant, though it is notably missing out on a KO on Pikachu EX. Should you find yourself unable to find a Rapidash in time though, a one of Magmar, but should you not be able to find your Ninetales, this Magmar is a solid backup attacker. Larvesta and Volcarona. As for the new Rapidash, I don't think it is going to see play. The 1 energy attack on Rapidash is a huge part of the Blaine deck strategy. Being able to power up such a basic attacker is mandatory when you are constantly discarding your energy with the effect of Ninetales. The extra energy is simply not worth the potential higher damage output. On the other hand, Ponyta Stomp is... On the other hand, the new Ponyta has a potential to high roll, and is likely to see play over the original one. The 10 damage versus 20 is not a huge deal, but if you're able to hit for 40 turn 1, you might be in for a... But if you're able to hit the heads flip on Ponyta before evolving into Rapidash, you are going to set up some nice numbers. Volcarona is unfortunately a little bit too expensive for what it is trying to do. As you can see, Magmar is doing this for the same amount of... Magmar is dealing the same damage as Volcarona, but has a lower energy cost requirement and doesn't need to evolve. Volcarona is able to hit Pokemon on the bench, but I don't think it is going to be worth it. This kind of secondary utility effect does not work well on a energy-hungry attacker. As we said previously, Gyarados EX deals a ton of damage and knocks out plenty of Pokemon in just one blow. But with 4 energy required, you are going to be spending nearly the entire game trying to set this up. Similar to a Dragonite deck, you are hoping that once Gyarados is online, you will be able to win before it ever goes down. Of course, a Misty could help you here, but is it really worth waiting when Starmie EX is right there next to it and is able to execute its game plan much faster? Vaporeon is pretty interesting, but again, Vaporeon is able to move your energy around, helping you retreat that damaged Starmie EX and power up the Articuno from the bench. However, you will probably end up wanting to have more trainers in the deck. Vaporeon's effect sure is useful, but adding Eevee is going to bog down your consistency. You'd rather guarantee you start with a Staryu or Articuno every game. Lumineon is a Pokemon very clearly meant to pair with this Vaporeon. By dealing the damage and then retreating for free, Lumineon's energy is able to move to your new attacker. However, 50 damage is a bit low, and with 80 health is pretty low, and you are likely to be knocked out by anything the metagame is throwing at you before you're able to utilize that retreat to move the energy onto your Starmie. Similarly, Dreadnought's attack is simply too much investment. Just like Gyarados, you are not going to spend the extra energy and turn setting this up when Starmie is such an efficient attacker. The new Pikachu is a little bit... The new Pikachu has the ability to deal 30 damage for 1 energy. Unfortunately, this is still weaker than, say, Farfetch'd, but it might see some play in Pikachu EX decks. Pikachu EX frequently runs a Thunderbolt Raichu to close out the game. And while this new Raichu is quite strong, it is not able to fulfill the same role. So do not expect to see too much of Raichu here. Galvantula is quite similar to Arbok from the previous set. However, Galvantula's 80 HP is a significant downgrade to Arbok's 100, and the extra 10 damage does not make it up, in my opinion. Now, Mew EX is quite the interesting new card. Mew EX is able to copy the effect of any attack your opponent's active Pokemon has, one-hit KOing opposing Charizard and other powerful Pokemon for just 3 energy when many of these best attacks in the game require 4. That being said, it is not a Pokemon you are able to use very well early into the match, and some decks like Pikachu are unable to run it at all. Mew EX is likely to see play in decks that currently do not have stringent energy requirements. Something like Exeggutor EX, that only requires 1 energy, is looking for a partner that will be able to take the energy over the course of the game and then blow up. There are no better basics than Mew EX for fulfilling this role. Anything strong enough to take down Exeggutor is likely to be hoisted by its own petard once genome hacking activates. Behaim is an interesting Pokemon able to deal 70 damage for just 1 energy. This is slight power creep over Beedrill, as this Pokemon is a stage 1. Of course, there is a slightly lower HP. And Mindjack does have a condition. Opponents on low basic decks, like Water, are unlikely to have a full bench, and the Pikachu EX deck that this seems geared to fight is able to one-hit KO Behaim with Circle Circuit. Golem is an interesting Golem is in an interesting position, being able to be powered up by the Brock supporter card. Unfortunately, it is likely to be pretty slow, as Brock is unable to power up the Geodude or Graveler, only the final form. That said, with 160 HP and help from Guard Press, anything short of a Charizard is unlikely to break through this, especially when paired with potions. If you do not one-hit KO Golem, it effectively gains another 30 HP, bringing its total to a resounding 220. Not even a Starmie deck is able to put up that much damage, as long as Golem is able to stall through the early game with cards like Kangaskhan. Golem should be able to come in late and finish things off. Consider this like a Venusaur that only gives up 1 prize, but the lack of Erica could make it worse. At the end of the day, Golem is probably going to be worse than Venusaur EX, doing a similar thing with their attacks. That said, Guard Press does hit a little bit more damage, allowing Golem to KO a Starmie in 1 hit, should you pair it with a Giovanni. Aerodactyl EX is one of the cards I've seen receive a little bit of hype. However, Aerodactyl only applies to the active Pokemon, and if you are trying to evolve a Pokemon, it is almost guaranteed to be on the bench. Your Ralts, your Charmander, your Staruse, all of these, your Ralts, your Charmander, your Snivies. All of these cards wish to be on the bench. That said, Aerodactyl EX could make a quick appearance against a Staryu, as long as you are able to get it into play. By evolving from a fossil, this card will be stuck with consistency issues. Even if you are able to get everything to go right, it often won't even matter. Compared to Marowak, who is averaging 80 damage, Aerodactyl does offer a bit of consistency. However, even with weakness, this is failing to KO an opposing Pikachu EX. And with the need to run the fossil, getting an Aerodactyl EX online quickly is unlikely. You'll need to have something to open with, draw into the fossil and Aerodactyl, attach both of your energy to the fossil, and then also be able to switch out your active Pokemon. This seems a little bit too much for me to get Aerodactyl working properly. The new Coughing will certainly see play in the current Weezing-based decks. But the new Weezing will not replace the wonderful Weezing we already have, poisoning the opponent's Pokemon and being able to switch out immediately into something else with Koga is essentially bonus damage, whereas Smokescreen is an RNG-dependent, slow crawl to the finish line. Speaking of the old Weezing, it pairs nicely with Scolipede, who is able to inflict 120 damage with Venoshock, after Weezing poisons the opponent's active Pokemon. With Koga to return this Weezing to hand, and the 10 damage from poison, Scolipede can 1-hit KO even an opposing Starmie EX. Pidgeot EX is able to deal up to 140 damage, and that is enough to score some crucial KOs. And as a colorless attacker, it is not bad as a secondary option for some decks. That being said, Pidgeot EX is going to take up 6 deck slots. And if you are looking for a secondary attacker, Pidgeot EX will pale in comparison to Mew EX, who is already able to do the attacks of the opponent's Pokemon for 3 energy. Now, could you run Pidgeot EX alongside the original Pidgeot? Technically, yes, but I think spending half your deck on a single evolution line that is also requiring your opponent to play down multiple basics will not be a winning strategy. Pokemon Flute is meant to help strategies like Pidgeot EX and Lumineon. While Pokemon Flute is here to help strategies like Pidgeot EX and Lumineon, it is a little bit niche on what it is trying to do. Many basic Pokemon are going to be out of the range of a Lumineon Snipe, and like I said, Pidgeot EX is a little bit inefficient compared to other attackers. Go the extra mile and just swing in with a Charizard for 1 more energy than Pidgeot, and you don't need to mess with all of these conditions. On the other hand, Mythical Slab is almost certainly going Mythical Slab will almost certainly see play. While it is not a consistent search, the ability to dig 1 card deeper and find the ever-important Gardevoir or Kirlia cannot be underestimated. If you are running a Psychic deck, put the Mythical Slab in. Blue here is an interesting choice, as it is able to stack up a little bit higher with Golem, giving it functionally 200 health right from the start. we have seen Giovanni be a force in the meta, and blue will undo the ability of Giovanni to secure those crucial KOs. However, healing and damage prevention is always going to be worse than the opposite. Offense is the best defense, so I believe blue would need to see -20 or more to truly be worth it. If you are not getting KO'd, blue is worse than a potion. On the other hand, Leaf may see niche play for anything running 2 retreat cost Pokemon. If your retreat cost is 3 or higher, you probably just don't want to retreat in the first place. A card like Exeggutor EX is happy to sit there and flip until it goes down. Whereas Leaf's utility is marginal. You'd almost certainly be maxing out on X speed first, as your decks are going to need other cards like Pokeballs, Professor Oak, and Potion before you run Leaf. And if you are a grass deck, the deck that is full of high retreat cost Pokemon, you are going to have Superior to help, or your deck is going to be filled with cards like Erica, which doesn't leave much room for the Leaf. That should be all of them. So, let us switch back to the game here, which appears to have gone into sleep mode. Before we continue, let us take a look at the Chansey pick. We are missing our second Bulbasaur. So, will we find it here? 60% chance. And it is Magnemite number 8. An unfortunate selection. But we did pull a Celebi EX. It's time to build our decks. Superior plus Celebi. Will it be good enough to get us where we need to go? And it looks like we are missing our second Snivy. This is far from a consistent list, but we will see if we can make it work. Let's run some potions. Let's run our Pokeballs. Professor's research. And we will have to scroll on up, as we are going to be needing Erica to join us in the deck. But even with this, we are missing several slots. One, of course, would be the Snivy, and another would be Celebi. Do we run anything else? Perhaps a Kangaskhan as another option for opening up early. But that is all I can think of. I suppose we will place Leaf in, as we have nothing else worthwhile. And if anyone viewing would like to battle, let me know. Otherwise, it is time to brawl on the random ladder. With our Pokeball in hand, we should be fine at finding the Pokemon we need. After all, our deck only contains 3 basics. And it looks like Celebi is our opener. Now, with both Pokeball and Professor Oak in hand, I would have said it is difficult to choose which one to use first, but with Snivy from the top of the deck, all of our basics are now cleaned out, and Professor's research is guaranteed to give us 2 useful cards. Servine has appeared. No energy can be attached on the first turn of the game, so we will have to pass it over. Our opponent is also on a grass-type deck. And despite adding in Leaf, we have no X-Speed and no way to retreat this Celebi. I was hoping to use Kangaskhan for a few turns, while we powered up Celebi on the bench. Let's use another research to see if we can't find something. Servine onto the board. Kangaskhan gains an energy, and X-Speed will retreat this Celebi for us. Now, my opponent has many cards in hand, baiting a red card from us. However, if they aren't playing anything down, they likely don't have much of value. Dizzy Punch goes in but fails to inflict any damage to the Pinsir. Yes, Celebi is strictly an upgrade compared to this Pinsir. 50 damage for every single successful heads, but Celebi is able to scale much higher. Unfortunately for us, our Kangaskhan was unable to land any heads, and Sabrina is going to force in our Celebi unprepared. But to follow up our 2 tails are 2 tails of their own. Let us begin charging this Celebi. Retreat with Leaf. And now that Bulbasaur is on the field, red card is much more alluring, as Ivysaur and Venusaur are likely components of the hand. Bulbasaur, of course, was only drawn on the previous turn. Dizzy Punch number 2. Shall we break this curse? We shall. Dizzy Punch dealing 30 damage, but that is not enough. Celebi still requires 2 head flips to successfully bring down Pinsir. And come to think of it, Giovanni is not yet in our list. Certainly a card we will need to append. Handscope will reveal our potions and Leaf. And it looks like our red card was a success. Unfortunately for us, Pinsir is going to defeat Kangaskhan in one fell swoop. 100 damage. Will we do it? Powerful Bloom is activated. 1. And unfortunately, that'll be it. 50 damage. That Pinsir lives with 10 health left. A Serperior would be a welcome addition to our hand, but with Double Horn looking threateningly on us, and Erica might not be a bad draw either. That Bulbasaur on the bench is powering up. Double Horn, putting us at 80. If we want to avoid a Double Horn KO, we would need either both potions or this here Erica. Now, Celebi begins to scale from 2 coin flips up to 3. And we have secured the KO on the first flip. That benched Bulbasaur is not yet ready for action. A Venusaur EX requires 4 energy to properly use, and bringing in the Bulbasaur early is tantamount to surrendering. As with 4 energy, we are in a fantastic position to land a KO on this Bulbasaur. 40 damage is not nearly enough. But just to be safe, let's heal this Celebi by a smidge. Now, powerful Bloom! Unfortunate, only 1 heads, and we only needed 2. These flips have not been above odds, even a single turn for us. Only the opponent was blessed with a double heads Heracross. Sorry, Pinsir. Erica will heal this Bulbasaur back to full, but I'm not convinced it will be enough. Are they planning to retreat the Bulbasaur? No. With 5 energy and a 50-50 shot of Superior, this opponent is unprepared for what awaits them. 10 coin flips. Erica will heal our Celebi to 120. And out of 10 potential flips, we only need 2 heads. It is almost impossible for them to survive this. With 7, we are more than beyond the amount needed to KO any Pokemon in the game. And as expected, the opponent concedes rather than waiting for an extra turn. 12 energy flips would be a little bit excessive for an unevolved Pokemon. And I accidentally clicked away before clicking thanks. That is our bad. We are opening with the Kangaskhan, and with 2 Professor's Research, finding our backup should be no problem. Both Superior are already in hand. All we need is a Servine and the basic. Going first, our energy will be a little bit unprepared. But they are playing a Dragon deck, which is going to take them quite some time to set up themselves. But we have found no basic Pokemon. Another Erica is another unusable card, but with our second Professor's Research, not finding any of our 4 options would be a little bit unrealistic. Celebi EX and Snivy both hit the board, and Dizzy Punch will begin to chip away at Kangaskhan. The regular Articuno, I assume, is just here to stall. I cannot imagine spending 3 turns powering it up. I assume this Articuno might be getting paired with a Misty, allowing the player to power up Dratini on the regular, and then every now and then use the Articuno to attack and stall for time. Basically, a meat shield with some utility. Celebi EX gains its first energy. And now Kangaskhan will swing in. Unfortunately, our Dizzy Punch is going to miss. Welcome, Potatoes. Pokeball to get the other Dratini, presumably. Now, our opponent is beelining straight to that Dragonite. A Sabrina would be nice, but it is potentially a little bit too late. They did play a Pokeball to thin the deck. And we do not have the equipment ready in hand. In fact, I may have entirely forgotten to play the Sabrinas in the deck. So, do we continue on with Kangaskhan? I believe this is the correct play here. Spend one turn to weaken the Articuno. Then see if they choose to bring in their Dragonite or not. As Celebi gaining the first attack would be nice, though with Draco Meteor's random damage, it is an issue. Will they X-Speed? They do. Oh, with one Tentacle, you were able to build 3 new decks. Those are either some half-finished lists or very good pulls. Alright, Draco Meteor is coming in. Now, as long as there isn't a large swing in variance here, we should be okay. And Leaf actually is proving their value in this list, for we can attach an energy to Celebi. And with Leaf, Kangaskhan's retreat cost is lowered to just 1 energy. Kangaskhan retreats into this Celebi, and should we be able to land a KO, we will be in a good spot. Unfortunately, perhaps I should have actually used the Erica here instead. We are going to need 4 heads. And we only land 3. Just barely missed it. So, either Celebi EX is going down, and we lose the game. Or, wait, it doesn't matter. Draco Meteor is exactly enough hits to guarantee all 3 of our Pokemon fall. I should have used the heal on Kangaskhan, and then there would have been a chance for Draco Meteor to not... Wait. It can overkill. I didn't know that. And if that is the case, we are still in this game. Erica will heal the Celebi EX, and then we may not have the doubling power of our Pokemon anymore. But we do have plenty of health. Powering up a new attacker will take them several turns, in which we may be able to claim a KO. Next turn, our Erica can swing in again, and bring Celebi back to full health. Are you able to... Oh, it's the cards you're missing, not the Erica. I see. Oh, and I was correct on the Misty. Fortunately, for us, it is a whiff. That being said, we are still going to need 2 consecutive KOs with this Celebi in order to win. 5 energy. Are we able to land 2 out of 5? 1, 2, 3, and that will do it. All that is left is one more prize point. Dragonite is not yet prepared, but they are forced to bring it in if they want to not have their other Pokemon knocked out here. And this is another situation where a Sabrina would be wonderful, as then we would need much fewer. There is no amount of healing. This will stop. Well, we land 4 heads. 1, 2, 3, 4 exactly. The opposing Dragonite is down to the powerful Bloom. Now, I do believe this deck would be a little bit better with the second Snivy in it, but it appears to be doing just fine on its own. Oh, and of course a second Celebi would be helpful as well, though I am going to continue to forget to put the Sabrina in. Perhaps I will refine it off stream. We only have time for 1 or 2 more games, so let's see if it works. We are going first yet again. And here we are stuck with a Snivy in the active. Fortunately, Leaf is in our hand, serving as additional copies of the all-important X speed. And we have once again found an opposing grass-type strategy. Kangaskhan onto the board. And we will save the retreat for next turn. We don't need Kangaskhan to take any additional damage from the Petalo. We are at risk of a red card with this strategy, but I believe holding on is for the better. Oh, my opponent is indeed also a Celebi player, using Lilligant to power up Celebi with as many energy as possible. While that Professor's Research would be useful, we must play Leaf if we wish to attack this turn. And yes, once this game is done, I will challenge you to a battle. That seems like a pretty good way to finish off the stream. I don't know what you've built, but I am excited to see whatever it is you've devised. I need to take a look over the new cards and build a couple of other decks apart from Celebi myself after this stream. Next time we're live, we will be playing more like this, I imagine. Alright, and there it is, the Leaf Supply. 50 damage to Kangaskhan. And an energy attached to that Celebi. Not a bad plan. Superior is here, but we are missing a crucial component. And Erica is unable to heal our Kangaskhan. A potion would be perfect. And it is exactly what we find. Let's go ahead and attach an energy to the Kangaskhan. As if we need to retreat it later in the game, the extra energy will enable an XP to give us what we need. Unfortunately, we are flipping 2 tails here. And this means their Celebi EX will be powered up to dangerous heights. 4 or 5, 6 energy by the time it comes in. This is where our lack of successful basics will hurt us. We were never able to find our Celebi or Servine, so that will do it. 4 consecutive tails flips. Lilligant is unscathed. Let's go ahead and concede the match so we can get into the viewer room. Battles versus mode private match. Enter a password. The password will be our username. Alright, plus minus. If you are ready, we will be queuing for the battle. Yeah, that is fine. I don't really mind if you are hand sniping. There are only minor times where it would matter, such as a red card. So, here we are, up against a viewer with our Celebi EX deck. We did not pull everything we needed, but we do have enough to make the deck work. Starting off with Celebi is not bad. And with a Geodude start, they are actually going to be weak to our Powerful Bloom as soon as it is online. Should they lack a Graveler, Celebi EX will KO a Geodude with a single head, thanks to weakness. Kangaskhan, also acceptable as a potential backup attacker, but without an X-Speed or Leaf to switch out. Who knows if it will work or not. Professor's research into a Pokeball. Did they draw the Pokeball off the supporter, or were they looking for more basics? Onyx, of course, it would be powered up by the Brock supporter card. Swinging in for a relatively efficient attack if you are able to make it work that way. Geodude swings in with a tackle. We have plenty of healing though. Snivy is going to be coming down onto the board. And we will attach an energy to Celebi. Let us heal up Celebi to full HP and give them one turn to evolve into a Graveler. Now, Golem is a Pokemon that requires 4 energy to attack, but if they evolve into Graveler, survive a hit, and have another energy, they will be at 3 plus Brock and can curve into it. But they are using a Brock early on the Onyx, powering up a 70 damage hit, which is only enough to 2-hit KO the Celebi. They are unable to reach higher than 80 with a Giovanni. So, will it work? Celebi takes a light hit. And we have drawn yet another Professor's Research. If we find a Servine, this game might be over. Our Snivy is quickly evolving. And we can even use another potion. Celebi is once again at full HP. A single heads is enough to knock out this Geodude, and there it is. 120 damage with a Powerful Bloom. Onyx presumably going to be the next one in, swinging in for 70 damage. But even if Land Crush is able to hit us, will the Monkey or Primeape on the bench be able to do much afterwards? We see the second Professor's Research from Cantrip's hand, and they're now at 5 cards. But still, the Graveler was a piece too late. They evolve, and here comes a Land Crush. 70 damage. That being said, Monkey is only going to be able to hit us for, I want to say, 30. We have plenty of hit points remaining. And we even have an Erica in hand. Celebi EX now with functionally double the energy, meaning 6 chances. And all we need are 2 heads to land this. This is probably the best showcase of the deck you can get. We are fighting into a weakness. We open a clean Snivy line. Celebi EX lands more than average heads. At this point, with 6 going on 8 energy, Celebi seems undefeatable. And we even have another Erica to keep Celebi EX at full HP for the entire game. We see another Golem, but it is not the one I would have expected, but rather the original Golem for 150 damage. Alright, let us heal our Celebi one more time. With 4 energy doubled by Superior up to 8. Powerful Bloom only needs a single heads. Will Cantrip avoid disaster? Of course not. They are down. But this is only one of 3 decks Cantrip has made to challenge our Celebi. Let's see what their next one is. I believe they probably started off with the fighting deck intentionally, giving us a chance to showcase the power of weakness. We will queue for the next one. And yes, we have time for one more round, so feel free to bring in this Vaporeon. And then we will call it a night. Alright, and we are first. I believe we've gone first just about every single game tonight. In any other TCG, that would be seen as a blessing. But here, we are behind on energy. This appears to be a Vaporeon deck. Let us go ahead and just end our turn. Celebi will slowly power up and potentially land a good, powerful Bloom. Even with just 2 energies, Celebi EX is equivalent in potential damage output to a Pinsir. With more HP, it is bulky and better able to use the healing cards available to it. Servine on a curve, but we are forced to pass here. Wartortle is going to deal 40 damage, and we could be in danger if we see a quick Blastoise line. But do they have it? With only 3 cards in hand, a red card doesn't seem all that useful. And Erica will help us survive just a little bit longer. Unfortunately for us, we do not have the Superior or a Professor Oak. So we are relying on a pure 25% chance, which does not go our way. Fortunately, we are able to deal 50 damage to the Wartortle and be in an okay position. Even if they evolve into the Blastoise here, barring a large Misty, our Celebi is safe. 100 damage is a huge blow, but fortunately Erica kept us alive. That being said, our Celebi is in dire straits. and there is no superior in sight. Last time we had a 25% chance of landing a useful KO. Now, we could retreat the Celebi and let Servine take the fall. If we do this, then Celebi will come back and Articuno will already have 1 energy on it. So we would be forced to draw into an Erica to survive, which seems around the same odds. So, Celebi, land 3 heads for me. Unfortunately, we are just barely going to miss the mark, and Blastoise EX will power through our Celebi. With only a Servine on the board, there's not much else we can do. Our win condition now is to draw into Kangaskhan, KO the Blastoise, and then find something else. Oh, but we see the opponent does have a Vaporeon set up. So rather than even let us get the Blastoise KO, we see the Vaporeon cycling Blastoise's energy onto the Articuno. A clean victory where no prizes will be taken on my side. Celebi EX was able to showcase its might in the previous battle, but will fall this time. Thank you for the games. We did somehow actually draw the Kangaskhan, but it is not enough. Even 120 damage would not be fast enough. So, let us end turn and let the defeat come gracefully. Cantrip, thank you for the games. And thank you to anyone else who came by and lurked. Hopefully we will see you all in the next one. And of course, stay tuned to the YouTube channel for some additional videos coming out in the weeks ahead.